Okay, Portland, welcome to week 112, Justice for Qadira. We're going to have a short rally today because it's been really, really busy for us. And again, I want to remind everybody we do this on our own time and our own dime. That's why we don't have a donation bucket down here or anything like that. So we get down here and we do this work when we can. And we're committed to being down here every Friday, so we're going to keep doing it. And we're going to keep telling this story because it's an important story to tell. Just because, you know, right now it looks like we are not getting the response that maybe, you know, that definitely we're hoping for, and that, you know, I know people that are out there that are supporting us, even silent supporters. Maybe you want to see more action on this. And all I can say is what we believe is that the wheels of justice turn slowly, but they do turn. And we are out here, and we are going to keep holding the city accountable for this. I just want to keep talking about how this really was a full system breakdown, and how we cannot have a full system breakdown happening, you know, in our system, and then we're just ignoring it. Again, one of the main things that I want to keep focusing in on, and I think one of the things that's most painful for us, is the fact that our daughter got no treatment at 2 hospitals after she was brutally assaulted with scalding water. You know, burned on, by their own diagnosis, 10 to 19% of her body, which is a lot for a 59-pound 8-year-old. So again, we attribute our daughter's survival to the grace of God. And because that's the only way we can explain it, because she didn't get any medical attention. And for those of you who struggle to believe us because you don't see our story in the paper, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we witnessed this. You know, our daughter was returned to us. We took her to the hospital. They handed her back to us with all these wounds, and we took care of them. So I can tell you for sure there's a lot of evidence backing up this case. I mean, we would not come out here week after week and just blow smoke in everybody's face. That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is help fix Portland. And Portland has a lot of problems that are stemming from what we believe very irresponsible people running everything. It's been irresponsible for them to allow this protest to go on and on without responding. But that's just another place, another piece of how our public officials disregard the public. So this is something that we are diligently working on week after week after week, and for the last 16 years, fighting for our daughter, because we have fought for the last 16 years. This April 12th will be the 16-year anniversary of the burning. And the thing that I think we all need to remember here is, you know, we're all here working together as human beings on this planet, and sometimes you got to carry that baton and hand it off to the next person who can hopefully take it all the way up to the line, you know what I'm saying? And or to the next person, so we can make the changes we need to make. And around Qadira's case in particular, there's a lot of changes that need to be made. We uncovered a lot of corruption with this case that is right now being ignored because there's powerful people in positions of authority who involve themselves in covering up this crime that don't want to have to explain why they did what they did, which is not helpful, because again, we're talking about people who have a lot of authority over other people's lives. Me and my husband, we don't have any authority over anybody's life. We're just down here telling our story and what we experienced over the last 16 years, you know, just trying to speak up about abuse. You know, we went through this whole period in this country. We had the Me Too movement, and people were saying, you know, believe all survivors. I just want to say, for the last 16 years after this happened, trying to speak up about the abuse of our daughter has been almost almost impossible. I mean, we've been disregarded everywhere we've gone. So ladies, I have to say, we really are in a whole lot of trouble. I'm speaking specifically to women right now, because women and girls, because I don't think when you come forward about this kind of thing that you necessarily are going to get the help that you need. So, because that has not been our experience, but we hope by continuing to speak about this that we are going to change that, and not in some kind of fake way. Because like I said, we kind of live in this environment here, not just in this city, but in this country where it seems like that's changing, where, you know, oh, if you're a victim of sex assault or abuse, that if you come forward, you know, you're going to be helped, you're going to be believed. That's not the truth. If you are not well connected, don't have money, don't have an attorney, don't have any resources, that's where me and my husband came from after our daughter was abused. We were people of modest means, and just trying to even make a report about this has been practically impossible. Actually, I wanted to read that letter today. Where? Oh, well, did you want to? Okay, it's fine. Anyway,
folks, I just want to say, if you are in trouble, okay, if you're experiencing a crisis of faith, because folks, I want to let you know, everything right now, it does look really dark out there, and there's a voice, it seems like, all over the planet that's trying to get us to believe that things are hopeless and that we should give up on ourselves. But I want to let you know that, folks, there's always hope. And look to the light. We are progressing. I know we are tardy and backwards on this planet. I know that that's what's going on here, but we can turn it around. And we need people to be strong. We need people to have hope. We need people not to be afraid. We need people to stand up. And we need to stand up together if we're going to turn this thing around. And I'm telling you, we can turn it around. Things do not have to be this bad. And really, they shouldn't be. We should be on the opposite end of progress, okay?
Especially in terms of caring for people and not disregarding the terrible things that happen to them. I talked about this in the Village on Wednesday. One of the things I was talking about is the fastest growing religion on the planet, and I want to tell you what I think it is. I think it's assholism, and I don't think that that's a joke. What I'm talking about is when something bad happens to somebody, and then a bunch of people pile on top of that person and kick them down even further, because that was very much our experience after our daughter was abused, was being shunned and treated like we did something wrong, like our family did something wrong just because this happened to us. So we've actually been the subject of much abuse here, you know, not just in our community, but down here sometimes when we're protesting. And just throughout the years, just the blatant disregard for what happened and for what we're going through. And we see that all over the globe. You know, that's not something that just me and my husband and our family are going through. I'm sure everybody here can relate to, you know, having a serious problem and then have it just being disregarded and people not taking it seriously. And, you know, what ends up happening when you disregard people with problems, people break. So we've talked a lot about how throughout this entire fight for our daughter, you know, dealing with law enforcement's been really difficult, because, I mean, we've felt like, you know, the way they've been dealing with this is like they want us to be violent. And I feel like with law enforcement, you know, after 2 years of doing this peaceful protest, it's like they want you to be violent to respond. Once you are violent, and you notice that with the violent protests, the minute people are violent, you know, the police come running out, you know, whole groups of them. But you shouldn't have to, behave violently to get attention when you're having an issue.
A serious matter, folks.
The fact of the matter is we should have never gotten to a point where, we have people strewn all over the road, because we should be responding when people are in trouble. Because that just gets worse and worse and worse over time, and we've seen that happen here in the city. And when I connect that to our daughter being abused, me and my husband had a couple of choices after she was abused, which was doubling down, taking care of each other and taking care of our family, or we could have just completely given ourselves over to drugs and alcohol. That happens, especially when you're being disregarded and told you don't matter.
And violence, folks.
And violence. And we could have chosen to be violent in order to fix this. But our point about not being violent, and we're really glad that we don't attract violent protesters or anything like that, because we don't want that. We want the people who did this to be
held accountable
and well, so they can be questioned,
so they can be held accountable.
That's right. We want them talked to. We want to know how this happened, and we want to understand how we were able to, the fact that we were reporting this for the last 16 years and it's never been dealt with, and that we took it so far through the system ourselves, which most people don't do, but we had the wherewithal to do, and we did it. Yes, we did it pro se, so we were disregarded, of course, even worse, because if you go into a court and you don't have an attorney, they just act like you don't exist. That's also inappropriate, because it is your right to use the system. I want to be clear. If you're an American citizen and you want to use the court and you want to file a complaint, that is your right. Okay, you don't need an attorney to get that done, and the judges should still be able to follow the rules and the laws and treat you like a citizen. So that wasn't our experience, but the fact that we pushed this so far, and we were talking about an 8-year-old child abuse victim we are still waiting for this to be dealt with appropriately. The fact that nobody could get this case going in the right direction, and all these grown adults just decided they were just going to go on with the cover-up to help their friends, that is not okay. And the fact that that is still being allowed to this day, it's not okay. And we're going to keep fighting against that. We're going to keep telling this story. And, even if we were to get this resolved, we still need to be talking about this story, because it should have never been able to happen. In our system. Our system needs some serious fixing. We need to get in there. When stuff like this happens, you got to get in there and figure out what went wrong. Because we have all these laws on the books that just did not go into effect, and then nobody gets penalized for not following the law.
Nobody's held accountable at all.
Yeah, because they're in a position of authority. That is not going to work. And we have way too much of that going on in the American system, because of the monetary system.
So yeah, that's right. My wife has brought up a really good point. Right now, at this point in our existence on this planet as a race of beings, we need to start challenging the foundation of our society. Why are we running society? Folks, it cannot continue to just be all about money all the time.
Right, because it's causing a lot of problems. I mean, we do really honestly believe, quite a few people have probably been paid out big to keep this a secret. And that's not appropriate, because we can't fix anything if we can't talk about our problems. So I will call out the media again here. You covering this up, KGW, Coin, Oregon Live, all of you colluding together, which is very obvious to everybody who watches this protest. It needs to stop. It's not your right as a news organization to decide that you're not going to cover pertinent events. And we've been down here for over 2 years. So this is a big deal. You should be able to find newspaper articles about it, but nobody wants to admit they're in the wrong here, because like I said, there's some pretty powerful people that this goes back to. I was actually going to read something today, but I forgot my tablet, so I'll read it next week. But it's a letter that we got from the police back in 2009 when they refused to investigate our daughter's case. And right in the letter, I mean, they're admitting that she was burned, admitting that she was severely injured, and then going on to talk about how they feel justified in screaming at us and yelling at us and telling us to go away. So I will get into that later, but folks, it's shocking to have collected this much inappropriate communication, you know, between us, just our family, and the authorities. So we have a problem here, and I think everybody in Portland knows we have a problem here. We have some very corrupt leaders. Ted Wheeler, he's all the way out of pocket for not responding to this, because again, he's over the police, and we all know that he's been sitting on his hands at least for the last couple of years in regards to this, as we get out here every Friday. But we're just going to keep putting these people on notice, because you got to keep in mind, people, that the guard is always changing. And as the guard changes, you know, maybe some new people are going to come into these positions who don't want to be involved in covering up a heinous crime against a child. And I'm hoping that as we continue to do this, we'll get there. For me and my husband, one of the things we've done, I want to be very clear, is we have no timeline on this. There is no timeline on justice for our daughter. There's no timeline on these protests, because I think they're important. I think the city needs them. I think we've accomplished something down here that people said couldn't be done in Portland, which is we've maintained a peaceful protest for over 2 years. Why that isn't news? Well, again, shame on the media, you know, because trying to cover this up, it's not helping anybody, and you're not really covering it up. You're just distressing the public by failing to, you know,
respond appropriately.
Respond and just acknowledge and help people sort out, you know, exactly what we're talking about. Because people come to rally, they hear bits and pieces, you know, they go home, they can't really piece it together. If you Google Justice for Qadira, there's a lot of information out there, but it's not official information, right? It's information that me and my husband have put out there. There's some official stuff. You can find some of our lawsuits and things. But the complete file and, you know, somebody organizing it for you, which is what a media outlet would do, we have yet to even be contacted by somebody in the media. So that should tell you what all your news organizations here are about. I mean, the Willamette Week, all of them, you know, how do they care about this city when they're not even willing to give you the truth? Because it bothers me that you have so many people involved in covering up this crime, and then they are making critical decisions. They are making critical decisions with taxpayer dollars. They're making critical decisions on how to deal with the gun violence and the homelessness and the crime in the city, and they're not being upfront about what they're involved with. I think that they are also sending, I think as this protest goes on week after week after week, it does send a message to abuse survivors, assault survivors, possibly human trafficking victims. Just don't complain in the city, because nobody's going to help you and nobody's going to do anything for you. And that is not an okay message to be sending anybody, because that's not how we're going to clean up the city. So right now, I don't even feel like we have the right teams in place to get this city going in the right direction. So kind of everything they propose, until they clean up this mess, really, nothing really should be moving forward until we figure out what's going on here with the corruption. And me and my husband, we look forward to that day. We're going to keep talking about it. We're going to keep making sure that we're letting people know exactly who's involved.
And whether or not it's still going on, folks, and we can tell you right now, it's still going on. It's disturbing for us, you know, and I know that it must be disturbing for you to have us come out here every single week and tell you that you live in a very corrupt city that really does not care about people. And that's not a good message. That's not what we want, you know, Portland to be being advertised as, but that is the current case.
Right, and I think as citizens, we're all relying on people who, look, if this thing comes full circle and And it is validated finally by the media and whoever citizens feel they need to have it validated by. Like, if this is all true, then I'm sure you'd like these people to be removed from power, because it's not okay for them to be wielding power over people when they're involved in this kind of stuff. Because this was a really horrific crime, and there has been, they just will not let it go. You know what I'm saying? And as far as I'm concerned, it was time a long time ago. I mean, the jig was up a long time ago in terms of what happened here. You know, the fact that our daughter got no treatment, that's why we're down here. What I'm trying to explain to people is we wake up every day and it's April 12th, 2007. So because of what happened to our daughter, she was found brutally assaulted, naked, wrapped in a towel in a basement. And
the authorities just didn't do anything about it. They didn't.
And then we were made to change bandages on this horrific wound because we were told to just take her home and go to the medical store and get some bandages and Silvadene when we were dealing with basically half her leg burned off. So what she experienced as a child, what I can tell you that I witnessed and where my PTSD really comes from, my personal PTSD, is I get flashbacks of changing these bandages because we changed them for a long time. And it causes me severe stress. I can't even tell you, and my husband. We still have that to this day. I'm sure if you've been in a war or had some kind of trauma, you can understand, you know, what it feels like to have those kind of flashbacks. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm remembering my daughter being cared for in a hospital and a psychologist and doctors and people coming around and helping and caring. No, we were alone in our home, and she was just, you know, in her bed, and we're sitting here changing these bandages, and she was in horrific pain that I can't even tell you because, again, they didn't even give her any medicine. It was just some Tylenol.
So we had medical professionals advising us how to take care of this wound, and they didn't give us any information on how to care for it.
Right. They just told us to
go home and put some Silvadene on it and wrap it 3 to 5 times a day. They didn't even show us how to do that.
No.
So it doesn't make any sense that this would have happened to an 8-year-old child.
Not in the modern world. We're in the modern world. We're not in the middle of nowhere. There was a burn hospital. And we need to start coming to terms with what happened here because, I mean, it was really that bad. So why this went on, we really need to get down to the bottom of it. And we're going to keep trying to get down to the bottom of it because nobody should have the power to call a hospital to get an abused child thrown out of the hospital. Now, for some reason, these predators, because they were connected to a politician, we believe, had that ability. And they went on, because there was no investigation, they went on to be emboldened, and they were volunteering in our schools, Portland Public Schools, Odyssey program for years. Having all kinds of kids over to their house. They had access to plenty of victims. It's very sad. And no matter how loud or long we have screamed about this, even though our daughter is a living victim and has all kinds of medical problems, and, you know, we were able to speak to what occurred, and we showed the police how they burned up her leg, and, you know, they said they were playing Naked Little House on the Prairie, and that's all been fine. So we have some pretty serious problems here in the city, because how can we be reporting that, you know, for 16 years and, like, they won't even, like, go check this guy out? So when we talk about, you know, people having a privilege, well, Todd Burkholder and Amy McQuiston, they had all kinds of privileges that should not exist. But we saw that in the Epstein case. We saw that, you know, law enforcement didn't act because this guy was white, well-connected, and just was able to do whatever he wanted. Up until the point where this black book, we still don't even have the names out of the black book, which is unconscionable. How can we be at that point in the modern world? I mean, we need law enforcement to work.
Same thing.
It's not working at all.
Same thing with Larry Nassar.
Yeah, these people, they get away with it because who they're related to.
Same thing with Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, their friends just kind of go, yeah, they're clean, they're fine. And then, it literally impedes law enforcement from even doing their job. And we need to make sure that we are clearing those roadblocks. Me and my husband have had to fight. We're still out here fighting to clear that roadblock. And it takes tremendous patience, which is why we really have put our faith firmly in God, because we need to be patient. And we need to keep working with people, because we do need to solve this. And you don't solve anything through violence. You have to keep talking and talking and talking, and sometimes it takes years.
Folks, we can't have criminals running the store, okay?
No.
That's just, if you want progress, and really what we are doing here on this planet as a race of beings, it all matters, folks. In the big scheme of things, it all matters. It matters what everybody is doing individually, and it very much matters what we are doing collectively here on this planet. And we can't continue to say that things that happen to people don't matter. Okay, we need to drill down. We need to get down to the bottom of what we are doing here on this planet. And if that is not taking care of people and making people matter, then we have a serious problem that we need to figure out. And we have to start talking about it, because we are not having these conversations about people mattering. And that's why they are not being cared for properly.
Yep, and every time you disregard somebody, then you can create another long-term problem, because people break. They just break.
Your problems compound. So it is important that we start coming together as a race of beings, and we start saying together, okay, we start talking about what actually matters, and it really has to come down to the care of people. That's where we need to start, okay? And with the care of people, that's where you start realizing that it's important for us to care about all of the life on the planet and the life of the planet. And we can't keep on giving in to this idea that there's something more important than people.
That's right.
And we have been doing that for a very long time.
And it's set us back.
Training people to think that it is okay not to care for people for whatever reason. But right now, money is a really big reason, but it can be anything. We need to start training each other that it is important that we care about each other above all else, no matter what else is going on, okay? We have to start caring for each other in a genuine way. That has to be the entire web of humanity.
And we do believe that, the first steps really can be taken here in Portland with this case, because Justice for Qadira is here. We have fought this long. Me and my husband, this has been a long battle.
We're not going away, folks.
We're not going away. We know something about commitment. We've been together for 27 years. We've been married for 25 years.
And we are digging our heels in,
That's
folks.
right. And we've raised our 4 children through this horrible time. But we have not turned to violence. We have not turned away from God. In fact, we are more steadfast than ever in our belief in God, because God has been there for us. That's the only person really that's been there for us, because I can tell you right now, we've been alone for a long time.
But we haven't been alone.
Fighting for justice for Qadira. It looks like we're alone, but we do feel God's presence in this.
People have made us feel alone. But those are individual decisions, folks. We can tell you right now that God has never left us alone. God has been carrying us this entire way. And if you turn to God, God will carry you too through all your difficulties. Okay? So that's important for you to remember. And
it's difficult. It's difficult. That's why we do the I Am the Value exercise. I'm doing it today. I'm always doing it. Been doing it for over 10 years now. That's one of the things we've recognized in human culture today, is wherever you go, somebody's trying to take your value. And I can tell you, me and my husband have been treated terribly over this. But we continue to fight for what is right. And we're going to keep, we're just going to keep at this, because we know that our voice does matter. We know that our story matters. Everybody's stories matter. Don't ever let anybody tell you that what has happened to you doesn't matter, because every story here on this planet, you know, whatever's happening to people, we are all interconnected, so it's all important. So we don't stand up here and say that this is the only important story of injustice. There are lots of important stories of injustice, but we have to keep working at this if we are going to improve.
And we are getting out here to encourage you to start standing up and saying that you matter and that the problems that you are experiencing matter. And it's important for you to come out of the shadows and start speaking up about it and joining in with people who are also having those issues, okay? And you know, a collective voice, that's a very strong voice, but even one voice can make a difference.
And that's why we get out here. You know, like I said, we've been told many times, give it up, turn around, forget about it. But we're not going to forget about it. And I think that that's important, not just for this city, but for the nation. I think this story needs to be told. I think we have a really poor system of organization, which is how we've ended up with so many people in peril. Because there is no real effort to care for everybody.
That is not the goal, folks.
Caring for people, like my husband has said many times, is like a side effect of doing business, instead of making sure that we're actually caring for one another and making sure people that are actually okay. One thing I can tell you is throughout this entire ordeal, nobody ever checked on our mental health at all. And we both suffered for a long time pretty serious drinking problems after this happened. And I mean, nobody ever checked in. Nobody ever cared. And sure, we thought about turning to violence. We didn't, because of our faith in God. But I'll tell you right now, it's not like anybody was ever trying to help us make those decisions or direct us in another way. So we've kind of been going through all of this blind, and if it weren't for our faith in God, I don't think we'd be standing up here, or that we would even continue to do this. So it's just important that we keep trying to tell these stories, because you can't just say, okay, well, our public officials are corrupt, let's just leave it that way. Every public official that we've dealt with that has looked at this, that has had some involvement with this, all these judges that threw this case out because they weren't doing their job, these people have the power over lots of people's lives. And we need to talk about that, because this is a space where, you know, their poor decision making is not even being talked about or looked at.
And folks, these people have a duty. They didn't just have a duty to our daughter. They didn't just have a duty to us. They have a duty to you.
That's right.
They owe you a duty.
They work for you.
They are your public servants. They are supposed to be helping you. Okay? They should not be abusing you in any way, shape, or form.
It's interesting to me that we can have this many people running the city. I don't even know how many people are running the city now, but there's a lot. And the city be in this kind of disrepair. It's not okay. And on top of that, we have this big cover-up going on that somehow everybody's going to have to come to terms with. Because I can tell you right now, we're the ones telling the truth. That's all going to come out eventually. Because, like I said, we'll do this for the rest of our lives.
If we have
we're
to,
totally
folks,
okay
we're going to
with
be
that.
out here. We are dedicated, okay? We are dedicated to the truth, and we are dedicated to justice.
Absolutely. So this doesn't end. We're just going to keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, because absolutely refuse to have anybody that thinks it's okay to play naked games with kids and burn them with tea kettles, not apologize, not get medical care, use the justice system and the medical system to cover all this up. Those kind of people cannot be in charge. And we are putting our foot down, and we're not just doing it for us, we're doing it for everybody here. So I know that some people have felt bothered by this protest or upset by it. We don't mean to harm anybody or traumatize anybody by having these pictures. This is what we've had to do to seek justice for our daughter. I think that, like I said, that's a sorry commentary on women's rights here in the United States, women and girls, biological women and girls, because this should not have been being ignored for this long. So that's why we just keep getting out here and talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, because you just can't make this point enough. The city has a lot of work to do. The nation has a lot of work to do.
The world has a lot of work to do. I mean, there are places on the planet right now where women, biological female women, are not even being recognized as human beings.
That's right. They can't leave their homes. They can't go to school. They can't do anything.
And that's just not okay, folks.
Right,
it's just not okay
for
us to be that backwards on this planet in 2023.
That's right. And to be this backwards here in America in 2023, where we've had to work this hard to even get anything done. And I don't know when we're going to really get something done. We can't even report that to you now that, oh yeah, something's getting done about this. Nope, it's still being ignored. And the reasons it's being ignored, I think race has a lot to do with it. I think money, I think power. I think that, the people who abused our daughter, they were related to politicians. And we all know the politicians, they're way out of hand right now. They have way too much power. And it's not okay. All I see from our public officials is a lot of stealing and lying. And then society is degrading. And what I see is people being blamed for that. So I see, it's the homeless people. They're the problem, right? Why are people choosing that life? Why are people not wanting to participate in society anymore? That's really the crux of the matter. I'll tell you what, after having this happen to my daughter, it made me want to throw my hands up and say, forget about it. Because then you start wondering, what's the point? You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people feel that way in the monetary system that we have right now. Some people are working full time and they're homeless. How sad is that? And there never seems to be enough compassion for the regular person, but I do see a lot of concern for the millionaires and billionaires, which is very confusing to me. People seem to always be worried that they're not going to be able to keep all they have that they can't use. So I don't worship billionaires. I think that they're sick people. I think they have a hoarding condition. I think it's weird to just lock up all the resources that you'll never use. These people that have all these 60,000 square foot mansions and stuff like that is weird behavior.
But folks, we can't necessarily blame them because we are encouraging that behavior.
Right.
And a lot of us, if we had the opportunity, we'd be doing the same thing. And that type of ideology has to stop on this planet. Like I said before, if we cannot focus as a race of beings on just caring for life on this planet, we are not going to get anywhere.
See, our theory is Todd's brother, Rex Burkholder, he brings a lot of money into the state. So who are they going to protect in this situation? Our little daughter, our little family with modest means, we have very little, or are they going to protect the big-time politician and his brother? Well, we all know the answer to that question. And they knew that we had very few tools to fight. So the chances of getting justice, we're the underdog. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of people, they don't even have the wherewithal to fight this. They expected us to give up a long time ago. Trust me, when we started these protests, they were probably in their little back offices going, they'll be done in 2 months. But like I said, me and my husband, the one thing we do have down is commitment, which a lot of people don't engage in anymore. But we are committed. We are committed to one another. We're committed to our children. And we're committed to this fight, and we are 100% committed to God. So that's where we're at.
And folks, we are committed to you. We are committed to humanity. I see all of us as one big family, and we are supposed to be moving forward together. Okay? We are not supposed to be leaving each other behind. And that is our understanding of how we are going to get this world back on track.
And when somebody hurts a child, like, you're not doing them any favors by looking the other way so they can hurt more kids. Because every damaged child then becomes a damaged adult. And you've got a lot, then that can create a whole nother slew of problems. So we have to stop this. And it starts when people, you know, have the courage to fight. And I was talking about this on Wednesday. You know, I'm starting to have people who are survivors of, you know, traumatic assaults and things like that come to me and say that this fight is giving them hope. So that's another reason we're going to keep getting out here, because if you can give even one person hope or courage to come forward and speak up just by telling your story, then it's a really important thing for you to do. And that's why we keep making sure we're getting out here. We also need to come clean here in Portland. We aren't really the inclusive, you know, progressive blue state that we say we are, right? Because we've seen for the last 2 years how this has gone, and the last 16 years. Hey, thank you. Thank you.
We appreciate it, folks.
We appreciate the kind words, and we know that support is growing, and that's awesome, because we really are out here fighting for everybody. Scares me, though, here in this city. I feel like me and my husband have experienced a lot of racism. I think one of the things that we've been struggling with is, you know, people see this picture, and for some people, they cannot see these wounds, okay? Because this is a black leg.
They're just not even
It doesn't
registering.
register. That's unconscious bias, by the way. I mean, we've been hearing that word a lot. It does actually affect how you view the world, okay? So I think that's one of the biggest mountains we've had to get around is, you know, our daughter having the skin tone she has, it's meant that, you know, this case has not been taken seriously.
And that she is literally invisible to a large section of the population here. And that's not okay.
And that her pain was not acknowledged. But again, we see that, you know, we've got women all over the world, you know, who look a lot like our daughter, who can't do anything.
They're just being disregarded, just like she's being disregarded.
And we have communities here. I mean, I think our black community here in Portland is nothing but in peril. And having dealt with the police for the last 16 years, I'm telling you, whatever diversity training they're getting, it's not enough. It's not enough. Because the way they've dealt with me and my husband, and we've tried to be real reasonable, it's not okay. So, we have a lot of work to do in this city, and denying that we have the work, that we have this work to do, that's not helpful in terms of getting the work done. They should have already been sitting down with me and my husband and talking to us more in depth about our experience, because it doesn't just affect us, it affects, you know, the community that we're in now and the entire city, and the community that we both come from, which we're both graduates of Thomas Jefferson High School, okay? So, we're going to keep getting out here and fighting to make sure that everything is transparent, because transparency is what is really going to help us start rooting out these problems and solving things. So many times with our authorities, I feel like they don't want things to be transparent. You know, they know better because they're the authorities. Well, that's not always the case. That's not always the case. They're just people. And they're people who make mistakes. They're people who can get greedy and nasty behind closed doors. And I think really our worldwide politics have really moved away from caring for people, and they've moved just strictly into collecting and saving money. And I see that all over the world. I see people being disenfranchised by their governments all over the world. So we need to kind of redefine what a government is even supposed to be doing, because the governments are supposed to be in place and all these public institutions to help people, so people aren't living on the streets, so people do have jobs, so people, you know, are living happy, healthy lives. And well, we're not getting that from government right now, and we need to really be trying to figure out Why? Because it's causing the entire breakdown. I mean, now the big plan is to have big mass encampments. Where do you think that's going? Because once you dump a bunch of people in a mass encampment, you're just going to keep treating them like they don't matter. Because you're not really bringing them back into society. So there will be I can already see that these encampments are going to be these really nasty places. And I don't want to see Portland go down that road. It's not good. I mean, you want to set up places to just dump people who can no longer, play the money game. That's not okay.
That's not okay, folks. That's not okay. So
it's not a solution.
Like I said, if we don't start talking about the foundation of global human culture, okay, we are not going to get things changed. So we need to start really sitting down and having those critical conversations about what we are doing here together as a race of beings. And I'm telling you, if we don't refocus on caring for people, if we don't refocus, if we don't start literally making people what is valuable, we are not going to get anywhere productive in our society going forward. So folks, we have some other things to do, but we've been out here, we're talking to you, we are going to continue talking to you, okay, because that's what's important, is that we continue having a conversation and we continue trying to figure out what we are doing here together as a race of beings. So folks, we want to leave you with this, okay? Very important message. We leave it to you every single time we come out here, but it is up to you to acknowledge it, to embrace it, and to spread this idea. Okay, here it goes, folks. I am the value.
I am the value.
You are the value.
You are the value.
We are the value.
We are the value.
Folks,
I am the value.
Folks, we're not talking about money. We are not talking about gold or silver. We are not talking about cryptocurrency. We're talking about your life.
That
is literally the only thing on the planet that is actually valuable, and it should be to human culture. So we're going to say it again. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value. I am the value. You are the value. We are the value. That's humanity, folks.
Right. And that is something that has really helped me and my husband throughout the years. Yeah. Okay, can we just shut it down and then we'll talk to you? So we're going to shut it down, and we'll be back next week for week 113. Oh my gosh, it's just crazy that we've been out here this long. Thank you, downtown Portland, and we'll see everybody next week.
Thank you.